Hello and welcome to this guide where I'm going to teach you everything you need to know about building and using a storm cannon. Starting off with bunkers. You're going to need a bunker with technology to even build the storm cannon. Let's see what I'm talking about here. So, we got a bunker here. Over here you can see the technology tab. What you need for building the bunker is an advanced bunkers. You get these technologies by having modifications. The modifications are all of these different things, computer modules, workstations, bunks, lockers, and everything else. That's what you need in order to build a bunker and get a technology for it. So as we see, advanced bunker need 40 command modifications, and for the 20 of them, I would recommend you to have computer models that lowers the cost of using the storm cannon, because this is gonna help you when you're gonna use it, because the power is gonna be less. But more on that later. As we can see other things, there's howitzers, AT, concrete, integration. All of this stuff is generally great to have because you want to protect the storm cannon so no one can kill it. So the technology itself, to get this unlocked when you build a new bunker, you can see all of them grayed out. And in order to get them up, you're gonna need people to set their spawn, pressing this button and being active at the base that will grant the points for the system to make this go up over some time. Generally for getting advanced bunker, that's gonna take like 2 weeks or so, more or less, if you have a somewhat active and you go for everything like the howitzers and stuff like that. So now we're getting to the defenses. There's generally two types of defense you're gonna want, and that I would highly recommend this piece. They're called halberd. More or less, this piece we got right here is called our halberd. It consists of having two ATs, a machine gun, and rifles on the side. These rifles on the side could be changed to machine gun depending on how close these bunker pieces are on the angle. But the main thing you're gonna want is to have as many overlapping arcs as possible, as we can see here. Right here, there's a lot of defenses that we shoot. Same goes for AT. Then you, with the trench connector that is here, connect it to another piece, and another piece, and you try to make like a circle thing to go around your base. Then in the back we got howitzers. These protect you from artillery and mortars. Whenever they get hit, they will fire with their range at whatever hit the bunker piece. It will not cover you for the entire bunker, only if something hit this. So this design has a weak spot where they can hit the main part of the bunker in front and not get retaliated by the howitzers. But on the other side, we can see here we got the bunker integrity and the health at 15,000 and the integrity at 72%. Compare that to this other design that's called a fat halberd. It's generally just a halberd but with howitzers placed on it, which grants you the ability to defend it better. But we can see here it's got less health and less integrity, which means it's not gonna survive as good. Also, when it comes to this design, you generally just have the howitzers facing forward. But when you have got the design like this and they are like more close to the front line, you wanna rotate these to cover more angles. For example, now we can see that there's a lot more angles being covered. So the main part for the defense you should know is having it as many overlapping arcs of defenses as possible. Because the more you got overlapping, the better. So the other thing you want to look out for when building is having the trench connectors being meta. And what that means is you get barbed wire in the front, which makes it super hard to get in, and then sandbags in the back, which makes it so they can't fire like into your base and they can't climb over them. Which means the only way to like get in, like you can defend this really is by just jumping over and getting into the trench. The only way for them to get in is for actually destroying the trench itself, like for the infantry to break through, which makes it a lot harder and makes them a lot better defense positions. Another thing you should note for your base is that every structure that you build is gonna be using MSub. And MSub is maintenance supplies, which basically drains over time. It's the most time consuming and important thing for the base to stay alive. You really wanna build it in a good zone, because they're ranked like very poor, very good, very poor, good, and then there's also bad or poor. And what they basically do is that for very good, 0.5 multiplication to the total MSAB cost. And then for a good zone, it's times 1, poor zone, it's times 2, and then for very poor, it's times 4. This means that building in a very poor zone like we have over here is actually gonna be much more time consuming and use more maintenance supply. Now over for the gun itself. The gun itself requires a 3x3 concrete structure where the edges can be corner pieces. And then you need to have everything to be concrete and then the middle piece as well. So what it looks like this. And when you're building the gun, only the middle piece need to be dry for the gun to be being able to be built. And the gun takes 48 hours to dry compared to a normal concrete structure that takes 24. Another thing to note is this design is technically one with the most health and integrity, but it's also very common for people to build storm cannon with howitzers placed on it. This makes them a lot better for receiving like counter battery and stuff, but it lowers integrity and health. But that doesn't really matter because when they get in range to damage the gun, it's already too late for the base most of the times. And this will just make it sure that it survives longer. So now let's talk the ammo for the guns. Of course, this storm cannon is gonna need 300mm ammo, and you're also gonna want for the gun ammo rooms close to it, because now people could just take the ammo and much easier go and fill the gun with ammo for when you're firing it, because it has quite a high rate of fire. Also, how you get this ammo is you can't produce them in a conventional factory, so you're gonna wanna produce them in an ammo factory and not a large shell modification. They are quite expensive to get. You can see down below 175 process construction material. Another thing to note is that the shells themselves are quite expensive. They cost 6 heavy explosive materials and 4 construction material for each. So they require a lot of power to produce them in 2 minutes, which makes them quite a hard thing to get. How you get construction material is you have a metalworks factory which can just produce them straight off. You can with salvage. You can also produce M sub at your own base if you got a materials factory. Now to the most important thing, and that's power. Power is what you use to be able to use the gun, and that's you require 2% power to fire a single round and 3.6% power to adjust it by 1 degree. And as you can see, you can effectively use up to 35,000 watts. In order to get that many watts, you're gonna want to have 12 engine rooms just powering the gun. But as you can see, and I told you before, is that the modifications can lower this cost. So you need a roughly like 1.8% power to fire a single run. And that's why another thing important is angle the gun from the beginning when you build it, because you can build it in any of this direction, either to the southwest for here, northeast, northwest, or southeast. But as you can see, have aimed our gun at the southwest, and we had it from the start, which meant we didn't need to turn it a lot. The charge up time takes kind of some time, and that's why you want to have as many engine rooms. You want to have all of 12 of them every single time. So now, how do you actually fire the gun like this? Well, it's quite simple, you see. All you need to do is do the calculation like any other artillery you do in this game. You account for the direction, make wind correction, and then you get a number and then you fire that number. But the only difference now, the dispersion is much bigger. You can't turn the gun because it uses too much power, which means you generally want to have it lined up with the first try. So I suggest you get someone or get a calculator that can do it better for you. And also, another most important thing, never blind fire a storm cannon, because that means that the shells is gonna be accounted for the wind at the direction from where you fire. This wind is not guaranteed to be the same where you're firing at, and it's the where the shells land, it's that wind you wanna use. It can differs by quite a lot sometimes, like 1 or 2 winters, which means the shells will land a bit all over the place. And you will really see this if you do the calculation normally, because then you will know that the wind correction you need to make is that it changes 60 meters per wind level, which is quite a lot. So the last things you want to note is that you don't want anyone to be able to use a storm cannon at any time, so you need to reserve it. And in order to reserve it, like it says here, you need to have 5 squad members in the region in order to reserve it. And what reserving it does is that nobody else that's not in the squad can enter it. If you're alone and made a storm cannon or are like a group of 3 or 2 people, you could just invite some random people, reserve the gun and kick them out. So one last thing before I'm done talking is that about these halberd pieces, you generally want to put sandbags up here so people can't enter them as easy from outside. Also, another thing that's really important for defenses on active fronts is that you got power for the defenses, because that make them so you can fire from a longer distance at night. And how you get power is just you have an engine room and then connect them with pipes, just like this. This guarantees that your defenses won't be as weak during the night as they would. But normally, when you're not a frontliner like we aren't anymore, it's generally pretty fine that our defense is weak. So, what are you waiting for now? Go out there anywhere and make yourself a storm cannon base and start shelling your opponent. And until next time, have a wonderful time.